So something that's fascinating to me is even after decades and decades of time of new gear getting developed and designed for backpacking and new stuff coming out every single year, there are still products that are being released onto the market that move the needle, that are just interesting enough and provide that boost of performance or that exact thing that checks all of the boxes that you were looking for. And that is what I want to talk about today. The Fire Maple Petrel G3 heat exchanger pot paired with the Fire Maple Green Peak stove. Now I'm going to make a bold claim here that I believe that currently on the market, this is the best cook set that you could buy under $50, which is an amazing price for a really good performance, high performance cook set, and also is not excessively heavy or super bulky in your backpack. Let me just explain this first. This video is not sponsored in any way by Fire Maple. No money was exchanged to make this video. They did not ask for me to make this video, and they don't get to preview the video ahead of time. I'm making this because I genuinely love this product. I've been using it for the whole spring and summer months, and I've genuinely fallen in love with it. You guys have seen me talk about it many times. So let's break this cook set down into the individual components, what I like about it, and even some things that I don't like, but how this has become my go-to cook set for backpacking. This is the Green Peak stove that comes in at an amazing price of about $20. That's unreal because there are some really cool things going on with this stove that makes me wonder, how did this thing make it to $20? The first is you have 3 pot supports, and those pot supports are at a 120-degree angle between each of the supports, and that's important because it fits into the bottom of the Petrel pot really well. The size of the burner is really nice. You have a little bit of a windscreen, and it's just barely got a concave shape to it that's going to be similar to the Soto Windmaster or the Amicus or the Pocket Rocket Deluxe. But you also have a piezo igniter on here, which is impressive for the price point. But there's one other detail that I was really excited to see because I feel like these little details help these stoves function longer. And that is the fact that here on the inside where you screw onto the gas canister, there is an O-ring that helps seal so that when you screw this on, it doesn't spatter and spit all over the place. And then you have an outer O-ring, so 2 O-rings for just containing the gas and creating a really good seal. I'm happy to see that. But it's also a powerful little stove. Lights on the first click almost every single time. You've got a pretty good simmer control with this as well. And because you have that little windscreen, it does help block the wind when you are doing that simmering. This thing has got a lot of output. That is some serious business, which aids in getting some really good boil times with the Petrel pot. So I'm impressed with just the performance of this stove. It's been reliable so far, and it's at an amazing price point. Just an incredible value. So now let's talk about the Petrel pot. This thing is amazing. I seriously love this. Now, I've been using it for several months at this point. You've seen me talk about it many times here on the channel already. But as a set combo here, it's under $50. It's very high performance, incredibly fast boil times. It's just a really good value for a lightweight cook set that doesn't break the bank. And that's important. So this is made out of aluminum, which does add a little bit of weight to it over titanium. And I've seen several people ask, why not make a heat exchanger pot out of titanium? And from the research that I've done, that just simply doesn't make sense because the folds of the tiny pieces of aluminum that create the heat exchanger portion of the pot, they're really tiny and they're super thin. And with the amount of heat that is coming off of the stove, the problem that will arise is you end up with a lot of warping and Titanium's not a great conductor of heat. Aluminum is a way better conductor of heat. So for what a heat exchanger is supposed to do, you get better performance out of aluminum, and you would also have just a bunch of issues with titanium. That's why you don't see titanium heat exchanger pots. Many of the heat exchanger pots that are out on the market are big. Like the smallest jet boil you can get is 0.8 liters, and the Primus Light is also about that size. Most of the systems like this that have a heat exchanger, jet boil, the other Fire Maple products, etc., they are a liter or bigger. For one person, that's pretty big. Unless you are doing a bunch of cooking with this and you're cooking in the pot, you're boiling stuff, etc., then maybe that makes sense. But this is where I'm saying, like at the beginning of the video, it's fascinating that this hadn't been thought about before or really done. I'm sure there are other products. Somebody will say in the comments that there was this from the 60s or 70s or something that accomplished that. But out there on the market right now, this is kind of the lone ranger of heat exchanger pots at 600 milliliters of capacity. So that's perfect size for one person, and it doesn't take up a huge amount of space in your pack. And this thing boils so incredibly fast. Like, while I continue talking about it, let's do this. I'm gonna fill the pot here with, let's go with 10 ounces of water. Now I'm gonna get my timer ready here. We're gonna light the stove and start. So the other characteristics that I like about the Petrel pot are that the heat exchanger doesn't sit up on top of your pot supports. There's a cutout in 120 degrees, so you have 3 cutouts that the pot then sits down on top of, which brings the burner of the stove closer to the bottom of the pot, and it pushes that heat out more into the heat exchanger of the bottom of the pot. It also makes it a lot more stable, and that's fantastic because that can get pretty tall. And so if you're on some uneven ground, then I can get worried that the pot is gonna slip off or anything, but it also puts the pot right into the center, as opposed to sometimes you set it off to the side and that makes for less efficiency. We're getting pretty close already. Now I don't have the lid on right now, and I'll talk about the lid here in a second because this thing is not perfect. There is one flaw that I have with this whole system. So once we get it to a boil here, I'll put the lid on and I'll show you what happens. We're at 1:48 right now, and we're just about to a rolling boil. 153, 155. 1:55 for 10 ounces of water. That's really fast. I'm gonna put the lid on here. What happens is you get a really weird suction action that if I go to pull this lid off, that lid just sucks down right on top of the edge of the pot. And I don't know if it's just because the seal around here is a little bit tighter or it's creating, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And so that's annoying because it presents a danger and the opportunity for you to pretty easily burn yourself. You can see there's a lot of steam coming out of the like little vents there or the strainer holes, but I can't lift that off without a lot of force, and I could pick that up if I'm not being careful and then dump boiling water on top of me. Even after I turn it off, that still hangs on there for a minute. So every time I put the lid on, I put it on at an angle, so it's not even totally on the top of the pot like a lid should be. And that makes it so that I can very easily take that off and also not burn myself. So the other benefit of the lid is the fact that you have the ability to contain everything within the pot. This handle, you just give it a little squeeze and it folds up over top, and then everything is contained inside. A 100-gram canister, a lighter, a little pack towel, and the stove all fit inside of this pot. So there you go. That is the Fire Maple Petrel with the Green Peak stove. I feel like the best cook set on the market right now for under $50, especially for a solo backpacker. I don't mean for this to kind of sound like an ad or a commercial, or I'm trying to sell you on this. I'm definitely not saying you have to go buy this. I've just been so genuinely impressed with the performance of this, how much I've enjoyed it, how quickly it boils water, and the stability of it. It's an awesome value. Under $50 for these two together. And I believe you can get it in a set as well. I purchased the pot by itself several months ago, and then I recently got the Green Peak stove from Fire Maple. They did provide the stove to me for testing, but I did purchase the pot with my own money. And so that is the Petrel and Green Peak cook set. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Have you used this? What are your thoughts about it? I'm impressed. I like it. So if you want to check it out, I've got links down in the description, but definitely not telling you you have to buy this. I just think it's a good value. So anyway, thanks for watching today, guys. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Hope you have an awesome day. We'll catch you on the next one. See you later.